good wishes to all their friends. While people just across the sea are counting the dead. Politician's job, they say, is very high. But he has to choose who has to go and die. They can put a man on the moon quite easy. While people here on Earth are dying of all diseases.
Hey guys, welcome to the Doomed and Stoned Show. We are here today with the man himself, Mr. Blasko. Is that how you prefer to be introduced? You've got at least three or four names there, buddy.
the Mr. Blasko thing, I think, is the most common one. So that works out.
Good. And my co-host John here from Vegas Rock Revolution as well. We're just gonna shoot the shit and talk about some new tunes and play some really good stuff. A lot of new stuff as well as the show progressed. This is the Doomed and Stoned Show, your weekly ticket to the heavy underground. And we opened with a Zakk Sabbath cover of Wicked World from the album Vertigo. That one is absolutely crushing. Of course, what can you say? Zakk Sabbath.
Why, thank you.
The man.
Why, thank you. That's been a fun project.
Yeah, I mean, I got to ask you straight off the bat there, sir. You get to play Geezer Butler a lot.
Yeah.
And as a bassist, I mean, I can't think of anyone that's cooler or better or more, dynamic and influential than that guy. And you get to play it. not only with Zakk Sabbath, but with Ozzy, right?
Yeah, I mean, predominantly where it started. Like I wasn't playing Black Sabbath songs for a specific reason before joining Ozzy's band. And so it started there, obviously. I mean, started there in terms of playing the songs live, started there. And then, but yeah, I mean, and we kind of do a lot. I mean, considering how deep Ozzy's catalog is, it's relatively unnecessary to even play anything other than Paranoid. But you know, we go like 4 or 5 songs deep sometimes, and
Right.
you know, we're like, hey, dude, like, you know, don't forget you got solo stuff too. You know, like
right.
I obviously don't mind playing, you know, Fairies Wear Boots and War Pigs with the man, but it's like, you know, every so often we could break out some, you know, Rock and Roll Rebel or something too, you know, just saying.
Right. Yeah, when you think about, how would you contrast Iommi's style on bass, you know, versus maybe a typical bassist, and what's your feelings and all that?
You mean Butler style?
Yeah, what, I slip up already?
Iommi.
Oh yeah, Geezer. Sorry.
Yeah,
Thank you, Billy. Thank you.
I knew, yeah. I mean, I actually interviewed Geezer for the cover of Bass Player magazine years and years ago, under the premise that whenever I met the editor-in-chief of Bass Player magazine, he asked me if I liked his magazine, and I said no, because he only puts wankers on the cover. And he's like, well, who do you want on the cover? And I was like, fucking Lemmy and like Geezer Butler and those types of dudes. And he's like, well, if you track those guys down and you interview them, I will put them on the cover. And I was like, game on. So I found Lemmy and I interviewed him, and they put Lemmy on the cover. And then I got Geezer and I interviewed Geezer, and they put Geezer on the cover. Anyway, long-winded point to get around to that. I interviewed Geezer. I sort of asked him about stylistically where that came from, in terms of following the riff, right? Because it's like, then there was no rules really. You could kind of do whatever in terms of them being the riff monsters that they were. You know, his options were sort of limitless, but you know, it's kind of like doubling that riff sort of made it that much heavier, and then that was the foundation for him to be able to play around with it and obviously add his own style and inflections and fills and stuff into it. But you know, that just echoing that riff and that body that gave it that girth, you know.
And playing with Ward, who, you know, has his own really dynamic drumming style versus the typical pounder. So I love everything about Sabbath, both the Ozzy and the Dio era. And Tony Martin's pretty good too, and all the other guys. But just the way they are able to accent each of the instruments in certain ways and not always be full throttle everything coming at you. And you know, sort of Geezer was the main writer in the band, right?
Geezer he wrote the lyrics.
Right.
Yeah. Predominantly wrote the lyrics.
More than Ozzy.
Yeah. I don't think Ozzy wrote much. I mean, early on Geezer wrote all the lyrics, and sort of the concept and everything was all Geezer in terms of the occult leaning, and Black Sabbath the movie inspired the band name, and then like NIB, and you know, the song about the devil falling in love. That's all, you know, Geezer.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome.
He was doing a lot of acid back then, I heard. So, you know, makes sense.
I have to ask, were you on the tour with Beastmaker a couple years ago? This would be Hawthorne Theater in Portland, Oregon, around June of 2017. I got Trevor William Church got me a pass to get into that show, and it was Zakk Sabbath and Beastmaker, and I got there when Beastmaker was playing, but it was like 1 or 2 songs in, because I drive up from Eugene to Portland. It's about a 2-hour drive, and it was so packed. I mean, I've never seen Hawthorne Theater so packed that there were people standing in the bathroom hallways, just trying to get an earful of what was happening. It was just insane. I've never
that
seen
tour. Yeah, that was our first headline tour.
Okay.
And that tour was bonkers. Like the only
Yes, it was.
the only tour we did before that was we opened for Clutch on a tour, and that was sort of, they were kind enough to take us on the road, and that kind of introduced the band to the world, or the U.S. anyway.
Right.
What a good tour that was.
Yeah, because before that we just did some local shows and stuff, and it's like it was the education process of like, what is this? Like I don't get, but people I think got it right away, but you never know, right? Not everyone's super bright.
That's
but anyway, so that Beastmaker tour was our first headliner, of which I was like a little concerned. I was like, headlining? Really? Like, do you even think that we can do this? And every show was like the show that you went to, completely sold out, like oversold out. Like,
what were the what was the typical cap on those venues, you think?
500, I would say.
Okay.
On average.
Yeah. Because gosh,
like,
I mean, you played a really big venue in Vegas. You played Brooklyn Bowl, which is a fairly good size. I mean, a good size one, like thousand plus. And that was with Clutch and King, who some people in Stoner World know who the band King is, KYNG. But I mean, those guys actually came through a little bit of the scene itself, and they made it on with, thanks to Jose Mangan, on the Octane radio for like 4 or 5 songs. And they stuck out like a sore thumb because they were better than all of them. And they were like heavy rock instead of this, highly produced stuff. And so that show was fire that night. I mean, people were totally into it.
Yeah, that whole tour was great because, I'm such good friends with everybody, and it was just great. I mean, dude, and then I get to see Clutch every night, so that rules, because they do a different set every night. So it's like, it's fucking badass.
What's your favorite song off the Vertigo album? I'm curious.
The Wizard.
Yeah.
Granted, it was all fun to do, especially into like a lot of the deep cut stuff that we really kind of had no business kind of digging into that stuff, because you wouldn't play it live. I mean, even they didn't play it live, really. I mean, after,
right.
Like once they got Paranoid out. But the Wizard is the one that I thought, when I listen to it, it's the one to me that kind of translates the best to me. Like I get a smile every time I hear that one.
Yeah. It's, in a nutshell, just kind of got all of Black Sabbath's potential in there. There's a lot of experimentation going on, and
harmonica.
Yeah.
Which really, to me, it just makes it so dynamic. And I when the first time I heard that song ever was Ozzy's "Speak of the Devil" album, which that's literally how I learned about Black Sabbath, Ozzy version. I went backwards. It was Dio, then Ozzy, and wow, like it literally. I'd never heard that. I'd never heard Fairies Wear Boots. I'd never heard Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, even, and Sweet Leaf. I'm like, wow, Sweet Leaf's cool. It's like a love song to pot.
Yeah. Yep.
I love you. It almost sounds like someone said that they made it where the Sweet Leaf was a little blurred so they could say it was Sweet Leaf and get on the radio.
Oh, I see. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, anyways, for folks that don't know, they're listening on the show, Zakk Sabbath features Zakk Wylde of Black Label Society and Ozzy, and so that's quite a lineup. Who do you have on the other? Who else you got playing in that band?
Joey Castillo is the drummer from because Queens of the Stone Age. So like
renowned.
I know Joey because we played in Danzig together.
You were in Danzig?
For a very short. He was in Danzig for like 10 years, I think.
Right.
And I was in Danzig for one show. But
still.
I'm surprised you didn't bring it up. One show.
But we did play in the band.
Oh, you got to bring that up.
Yeah, it's funny. There are some pretty random people who played with Danzig over the years, but because Joey Castillo is, I mean, gee, he was in Sugartooth.
Yep, Sugartooth was badass.
Yeah. What a first album that was.
I feel ridiculous because I have never heard of Sugartooth.
It's before your time.
It is before my
You were
time,
young.
I guess.
It was like a Beavis Butthead song that just took off. And then I think they got signed to a big label after that, and then the next album.
Okay.
Yeah. But Joey Castillo on that, like back in the Jesus Christ, what, early '90s?
Yeah,
early
I mean,
90s.
that's whenever, because we did clubs together, like Sugartooth and bands that I was in, and because I've known them back from that long, and that was that time of LA bands getting sucked up by major labels and getting record deals. That was like early to mid 90s. That was a very common thing.
Caius, they broke in, to the main thing in 92, 93. And I was so lucky. The guy downstairs from me, I got a dime bag off, and he's a dude I buy some weed off of. And I was living at the beach at the time, and I go downstairs, and he gives me the weed, and he goes, here's a CD. And I go, what's this? And I thought he's more of a Deadhead kind of dude. And I'm just not into jam band stuff that much, even though I was getting high every day. And he gives me this, because, well, I'm hearing you playing like Soundgarden and Tool and Rage Against the Machine, so I want to give you this. And it was Caius.
Yeah,
and I'm
totally.
like, Blues for the Red Sun. It was like, like I go to the record store, immediately bought it. And then I bought the Circus. It's just, it's interesting that, of course, 95, 96, that's when Queens of Stone Age got shifted in. And Joey was in there pretty early with Josh.
Yeah, he took, Grohl's place. So it was like, Grohl did, obviously that big record, and then I don't know if he toured much on it or whatever, but then Joey came in after that.
And Mr. Hernandez from Caius was actually on the first album, so him and Josh both shifted to Queens, and they did. It's pretty Alfredo. Very interesting to see how a lot of stuff ties in together in this scene. Absolutely wacky.
Totally.
We're gonna get into a bunch of the stuff you've been into. But we wanted to lead off this set, and this gentleman has given us 5 songs for tonight, and he starts it off with what many people would consider one of the songs of the year, and by one of the albums potentially of the year.
Definitely.
That's Lowrider, as he picks Red River.
Yeah, it's definitely in my top 10 albums of the year. And it was my most played song of the year. Just because that riff is just so insane.
Yeah, it really, that's a song I can give it to normies, and they're like, yeah, that's pretty cool. It's just heavy, but it's got good vocals. It catches you in different parts, and of course, just a great riff throughout the whole thing. And it's great to have Lowrider back. I mean,
and production is great, and the drummer, the drummer really kind of makes it also what it is, because it's like a good riff is only as good as the drummer is backing it up, So they had there was whatever dudes made that record, it was a tight unit.
Yeah. After all these years, think about that. Their last album was when, Billy? Do you remember? Like,
yeah, it was at least. It was close to 20 years, I want to say.
Right, at least 15, maybe 20 even. So it's about 15. So those guys are, I think they already have a bunch of stuff already recorded. So hopefully we get a 2021 release also as well. Some of those songs I think were even written way back in the day and just never came to fruition. So very intriguing to have this band immediately announce themselves as, I think you're going to see many on their top 25. For me, top 5. I don't even make a secret about it. This band's awesome.
Yeah.
So I shift over next to, speaking of awesome bands, this band's out of Hollywood, Void Vator. And they just popped out a single out of nowhere called I Can't Take It. And it's going to be coming from their album coming up in April on Ripple Music. And Eric Kluber from Gypsy Hawk, in pairing with Lucas Canopa, the lead singer and guitarist. Those two really have a great two-guitar attack, like just really play off each other. And along with Sam Harmon on bass, these guys are just characters. And if you watch the videos, it's literally, these guys really just like to have fun and rock it. So interesting.
I was looking for the lyrics to "I Can't Take It." It sounds like my kind of song to kind of sing along to, but I don't see the lyrics yet. I'll have to listen to it again.
Well, the video features primarily them filmed in Hollywood at various different places, a little bit of LA, I think. So it's just a song that kind of encapsulates what the energy is about these guys. These guys always bring live shows. I probably had them for 4 or 5 shows, maybe 6 even. And produced the first album by Ulrich Wilde. So a little side note. Yeah. Did you get a chance to hear it, Rob?
I haven't listened to it yet, but I'm excited to check it out. I'm especially always excited to hear some new stuff that's, in my backyard. Hollywood just right down the road. So
super cool dudes. Yeah. Very cool. But Billy, we end up making this first set very dynamic, to say the least, with your final entry here.
Yeah, at first I questioned, once I saw both of your picks, whether or not this would just be a little fish out of water, but listening to all three, they actually do, they complement each other well. It's an eclectic but powerful set. Eyehategod just released a new single last week called High Risk Trigger. It's coming out on the album A History of Nomadic Behavior on their longtime label Century Media Records. Kings of Sludge, period, and I guess Melvin's too in there. But these guys just have such a distinct sound, and they take their time to come out with new shit, and they never disappoint me. And something about, I think it's the production is getting better, because I'm actually able to discern what Mike 9 is singing. And that has been like an endless quest for a lot of Eyehategod fans to figure out on those old albums, what are the lyrics? Because no one's written that shit down. I saw them.
Doesn't matter.
I saw them at Psycho Las Vegas finally a couple years ago. But before that, Mike was going through a liver transplant, so Randy Blythe from Lamb of God took his place on a tour, and somehow he got to know the lyrics. So they are discernible, but they're especially clear on this one. And Jimmy Bower's tone on the guitar is just thick and searing. It's just a beautiful song, and I love these guys. They've really grown on me over the years.
Yeah, man, I was impressed, because at some point, a band like this has been around for this long. I mean, at what point do they start phoning it in, running out of ideas? And I was like, this might be one of the best songs they've ever written. Like that good. And that middle riff, I'm like, that is insanely good. So I was really impressed by this track.
Hell yeah. Well, let's give it a listen, because I'm sure we have a lot more to talk about in the next segment. We'll be back with more in a moment with Blasko and Co. on the Doomed and Stone Show. You just heard Eyehategod with High Risk Trigger from their coming album, A History of Nomadic Behavior. Before that, Vator shaking things up with I Can't Take It from an upcoming album. I guess it's not yet been announced, but it's a raging single with a music video. Got to check it out. We'll add it to our big old fat playlist on YouTube. And then Lowrider started us off with Red River from Refractions. Can't go wrong with that one. All right, and then to begin this segment, we're going to talk a little Warlung. And I believe Mr. Blasko picked Devil's Game to share with us.
Yeah, I love these dudes, and I love them because for some reason they remind me of Styx, and I really like Styx, and they don't sound anything like Styx. But,
interesting.
But I think it's because they have harmonies, and it's so uncommon for a band in this genre to have harmonies, right?
Yeah.
So whenever you hear harmonies, there's stuff that stands out, and for some reason it's like it Styx, and like specifically like the Tommy Shaw songs of Styx is why when I think of Warlung, I think of, and I've told them that too. I go, you guys remind me of Styx, and they're like, well, what are you talking about?
Like, no, Mr. Roboto, man. You're like, wrong era, dude. We're talking Tommy Shaw. We're talking like the era.
Right, and I go, you have to check out this song called Snowblind, and they're like, Styx has a song called Snowblind. I go, yes, and it's badass. And there's like a ripping guitar, and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, because they're younger than us.
Yeah, for sure.
You and me are implanted in the middle of Generation X. Those guys are like in their 30s or low 30s or
millennials.
Something.
Yeah,
they're Houston boys down there. It's fascinating to see they signed up with Heavy Psych. So this last album, Optical Delusions, which is a great name.
Yeah.
Released a few months back. I think I played them on our show once, probably 3-4 months ago. Mm-hmm. And a band that actually I was been meaning to put on again. So when I saw you send it over, I was like, damn, that's a good call. And you picked, in my opinion, the best song on the album. This Devil's Game is unique. It's cool.
Yeah, man. I mean, I listened to this record front to back, like, I think like 8 times in a row one night, like, because it's only 8 songs and it's such an easy listen. But yeah, it made my top 10 of the year for sure. And their previous record made my top 10 of that year. And I'm just a big fan of these dudes, and just felt like I had to include them on the show.
Dude, it's awesome. I feel the same way. That last album, 1970. Remember, that was the song we played, Billy. It was 1970.
Yeah.
And No Son of Mine. I mean, those are songs, man. They're literally.
Dude, No Son of Mine. I hit them up and I go, hey man, like, is that No Son of Mine song a cover song? Because that's how awesome the song is. It's so good that you're like, this has to be someone else's song. And they're like, no, we don't do cover songs. And I was like, well, that song is fucking awesome.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned Styx, because now we have another band to talk about when it comes to vocal harmonies. I'm a huge fan of vocal harmonies as well. And the only band old school band that I have to refer back to is Alice in Chains, which is my top favorite of all time. But I'm gonna have to get me into some Styx.
Yeah, Styx comes in many varieties, Billy. It's a complex band.
Yeah.
Before even Tommy Shaw was there, they were a completely another band. Crystal Ball or whatever. All those songs, heavy riff. It just, it's so dynamic, dude. There's an album they have called, it's like a greatest hits one where they compile their early years. And that's the album to go to, and to learn about a little bit about Styx, and then you
check it out.
But you'll literally hear the distinctive difference between the Dennis DeYoung stuff, which is Mitch Roboto and all this other, like style that's meant for Broadway or some shit. And the Tommy Shaw riff driving Blue Collar Man and Renegade. I mean, those two are the most rocking songs in the history of Styx. And then you go back to the other dudes singing before that. With Crystal Ball and like 2 or 3 other songs on that album, this greatest hits album, talking about that, which is, a whole bunch of go, that Styx. I think it's the same way Blue Oyster Cult or something too.
I sat through a lot of sermons growing up that would would denounce rock and roll, and the bands that would be consistently mentioned were things like Styx and Blue Oyster Cult, which I now know are like the least worrisome if you're going to look at like evil in music.
I mean, unless they knew something we didn't.
That's just how out of touch, so many of these pastors were. But
maybe they were pissed when the dynasty.
This was a Satanic Panic era too, 1980s. I was in grade school, and
see, that's what it was. It pissed them off because they actually liked Styx before that. So
yeah, exactly.
Young, they just linked it with the devil. It said he'd taken over the band.
There you go.
Don't sail away though. Don't sail away.
There you go.
Oh.
Well, talk to us about King Chiefs, buddy.
Oh man. Just dropped the album yesterday, Flying Into the Void. Exceptional album. I've given this at least 3 listens already. King Chiefs gives us this really good heavy rock brand that is definitely more melodic, but not pussy. And 2 guitars, because both the guys play guitar. The lead singer and frontman, Paul, he's also the drummer for Mezua when they go on tour. This guy is a really, really talented musician. He can play all the instruments. So he can play guitar, he can drum, he can play bass, and he sings. And then Jeff is his second, is the other basically co-writer of this band, and is a really, really strong guitarist. He's got his own band called Amigo, I believe. And so they're kind of interlinked with the San Diego scene. And this is the kind of one that follows up Warlung really good, because both of them have this kind of ability that you could visualize more people listening to. And they just jangle it good, man.
It's easy on the ears, for sure. I enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and, I'm really going to throw a wild card in here with Cardinal Wyrm out of San Fran. They're a trio, and these guys are, I would say, probably progressive doom, maybe is a good title for them. If you're familiar with the Reverend Bizarre school of doom metal, they kind of take a note from there, but a lot of dense textures, really aggressive rhythms, frenetic solos, and it sounds, like this is going to be something overpowering, but then they've got these stoic vocals that are I'd say they have kind of a religious undertone, like Catholic Church chanting. I struggle sometimes to describe vocals on this show, but I'm doing my best here with these little landmarks here and there. But yeah, I mean, clean singing maybe best way to put it.
When you say stoic, do you think it's like do you think he has a kind of like look on his face too?
It's more like a deadpan kind of gothic. Maybe gothic's what I'm looking for.
But his face, do you think is that tie into the stoic or no?
I try not to visualize it. I try not to look at singers in the face.
But I'm just saying, maybe never even seen the singer, but when you use stoic, no visuals? Okay.
This one actually, I think, might have a music video. We're going to hear Gannet from the just released devotionals on December 1st. And, there's, if you like, songs about the supernatural, this is a great album for that. And it kind of ironically named devotionals. There's a lot of nod to spiritualism in here, but more like the Aleister Crowley style of spiritualism.
Oh.
Yeah, cool. So Cardinal Wyrm, they've been around since at least 2013. At least that was their first record. So, big up to these guys. I think this may be their best effort yet. I'm looking forward to pouring into the rest of the record. I think this might be one that will be a grower for some folks, but I think I've picked out the best song on here to introduce people to, and it will flow really nice with what we've got picked out.
Cool. I'm excited.
Right on. Well, this seems like a good time to break. We've got a couple more segments ahead, so let's do that now, and we'll be back with more on the Doomed and Stoned Show.
chamber, pull the trigger, then you load it again. Load it again. Telling myself, keep it together. I'm out of my mind and feeling very afraid. Praying to God to make it better. ever since I can remember. Now cut teeth is all I have left to show.
The name of that song was Gannet. It's from an album called Devotionals by Cardinal Wyrm. We also heard from King Chiefs, bringing us Cut Teeth from Flying into the Void. And Warlung kicked us off in the second segment with Devil's Game from Optical Delusions. Now in our third segment, we've got 3 more songs I'm gonna chew the fat about. The first one comes from Hail the Void, and from the album Hail the Void, and a song called Parasite. These guys are out of British Columbia, if I'm remembering correctly.
Correct. Yeah. I man, this is their debut introduction, into the rock and roll scene here. And man, like, a lot of people kind of limp into this scene, if you will, but like the first track is called Parasite, and like that is coming in all guns a-blazing. Like it is super dynamic, killer hook. I love his vocals. They're so unique, and he has such depth to it. And then I love how they're able to dynamically kind of really drop down into the slow jam, but it's such a this was like, I mean, the equivalent of Lowrider's riff on that, like this like melodic hook of Parasite is up there for me, top 10 of the year for sure.
Wow.
Totally one of the high risers for me in this last 3 months has been this song. We featured this band on a show, back in May or June. I think Billy selected it, and we played this exact song. I think, and I put this song is so good, and these guys got all the way up to number 4 on the Doom charts in June. So they made themselves boom right there quickly, and they rock, man. These British Columbian folks, dudes out of Canada, and they're rocking. They're not too far from Seattle and all that, so they get things figured out. And if people were ever allowed to play live music again, that'd be an interesting band to see if they can, work the numbers or figure it out and get down west, because that they would have some people listening.
Oh, I'm gonna drive there to that area of Vancouver, especially. There's just so much action going on there. Brilliant scene, a lot of innovation.
Yeah, always heard good things about up there. So really killer selection. I picked a brand new video just came out by Jakethehawk, and they just recently signed on with Ripple Music. So these boys out of Pittsburgh, they've had a couple albums previous to this, and believe it or not, both of them came out in 2018. But this song, I tell you, nothing in the past, I wasn't able to hear it or I didn't have access or whatever the case is when you're listening to this much music, but I didn't get a chance to really zone in and, go, whoa. But this song and video, this is really a clean, cool, crisp song, great spacing with the instruments. It's heavy psych all the way on this one, but with heavy tone at times.
Man, Ripple is killing it, man. They're just like, we've mentioned them like 10 times so far, and we're only on segment 3.
I mean, heavy psych and Ripple just keep going and going. And Jakethehawk is a nice selection. They got an album coming out, I think it's it's coming out very, very shortly. They're on them and Appaloosa and a few of those bands, they're coming up here, and this is a nice selection. Really nice selection. So I hope you dig the song Counting. It's their first single off this album, and this is from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, this year with Doomed and Stoned, I've always wanted to do the Doomed and Stoned Awards. We've been out in existence now for 7 years, and every year I think I want to do the Doomed and Stoned Awards and just come up with these crazy categories. But if I do a Doomed and Stoned Award, I'm definitely going to have a category for best label or something along those lines. And this year it's been Ripple, Heavy Psych Sounds, Argonaut Records. What are some other labels? I mean, Magnetic Eye has been killing.
But Ripple
Magnetic Eye that made a lot of moves this year.
They did.
They did some interesting projects. Yeah, some good stuff.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of good small labels that have kind of come to the storefront. I mean, Coffin and Bolts with Dust from Stone Death, Desert Records with Brad Fry. The smaller ones, they're getting in there and curating good music because there's just not enough, outlets necessarily or labels to handle the amount of good music that's out there right now. And Ripple puts out 2, if not at times even 3 albums a month right now. And I tell you, I did a little scratch pad list of my top 25, and just to start with, and then I can narrow it down. And good God, I mean, Ripple is clearly all over the thing. I mean, it's insane how much good music they put out this year that will be at many people's top. Whether it's Cyclona, I mean, that's one of the biggest smash hits of the year. And they put that early on the year, just like they did, with some other stuff that people are now going to remember that it happened early in the year. I mean, hell, Wolftooth, who they did with Cursed Tongue, they just got signed to Napalm. How about that?
That's a pretty significant move for those guys.
I mean, that's that's very right. How about that, Billy? And for you,
those guys played 2018 Doomed Stone Fest, so I feel pretty humbled that they're growing and we got to feature them.
Yeah, they never left the Midwest. I think maybe they went over the East Coast. They probably went over to the East Coast of Maryland, did some of that stuff, but they never went past like the Midwest. I mean, never even been in the East West Coast band, and but they've struck a chord out there. So it's super cool to see that. There's a lot of good music out there. A lot of good music. Now you selected this next band, which is also from the Northeast, and you selected this band not too long ago. You played them. I forgot what the song was, but you got Vessel of Light coming here out of Jersey.
Yeah, so Vessel of Light is kind of a super group featuring Dan Lorenzo, excellent guitarist, just kills it with the riffs. He's got a great instinct for riff making. And then Nathan Opposition is a great vocalist, very characteristic singing. He's from a band called Ancient Wisdom, which is more of a, moody, depressive rock kind of band that I've always loved. But when these guys came together, they just brought it. And it's a 4-piece now, and this is, I think, their 3rd album. It's called Last Ride, 3rd or 4th album. This brings me back to their first big album on Argonauta Records, I want to say, which was, what was it? Oh, Woodshed. It was Woodshed. Okay, so this brings me back to Woodshed. So Woodshed was a concept album about a serial killer, and each song was just another chapter in his life. And so this, I'm not sure if Last Ride has the same, picks up that storyline, but it definitely has. I'm a sucker for concept albums, Rob.
Yep.
And Last Ride has that kind of thing going on. And Torture King is presumably about somebody who likes to torture people. Although there's maybe the off chance it's about this dude I was reading about called Zamora the Torture King. Have you guys heard of this guy? He was a Vegas sideshow act for many years.
Okay, that sounds familiar.
They studied him because he could do all these things, like the bed of nails and the fire walking and the sword swallowing and, the spike through the face. And
why people do that?
The reason he could do it is because he actually was one of the rare people that didn't feel retching pain. And so neurologists and, all the specialists in neuropathic pain study this guy because he was just so famous. I don't think it's about him, but it would be kind of cool if it was. But Torture King's a great song. Right after this on the YouTube playlist, Mr. Crowley by Ozzy Osbourne popped on right after this, and it was amazing just how well these two paired. So if you can imagine, it's kind of in that same vibe. And I think you're going to like it if it's your first exposure to Vessel of Light.
It is a good riff. My funny Vessel of Light story, well, I don't know how I guess it depends on what side of the business that you're at, how funny it is, but Vessel of Light, like on their first record, so like I'm not familiar with them, and then I'm friendly with this A&R guy who's been around for a long time, and he works for a label, and they must know him because they've been around for a while too, right? And so they sent him the stuff, and he didn't like it for whatever reason, right? And he had his reasons behind why he didn't like it. But so the A&R guy sent me the email back and forth interactions of him and Vessel of Light arguing about how
God.
good the band is, and he's telling them that they're not good, but they're telling him why his opinion isn't good either.
Right.
And it
That's
was
gonna
just
always
like,
work.
it's always fun to see a little snapshot of the behind the scenes of the music business.
Yeah, I've been given that a few times, and I always keep it mum's the word, but I find it fascinating. And those same people that give me those once in a while, I'll give them a little taste of something I went through or something.
Yeah.
I'll be like, hey, check this out, man.
Hades was the band. Hades was the band I was thinking of. Not Hell, but Hades.
Hell, you're close. You're close.
Yeah. And they've got the former bassist from Hades, Jimmy, joining Dan as well. And then Overkill drummer Ron Lipnicki, I think is how you say his name. When Dan assembled his team, he was supremely confident about this and just repping it hard. And I actually, it was like Serpent Rise was the one where he brought the super team together kind of, and he was just gung-ho about this, and actually didn't like it as well as the previous album on Argonauta, but they've really come back to win me over with Last Ride.
I think both albums are really, really super solid. I got a question. Blasko, what is your favorite concept album ever?
Good question.
Ooh, wow. I suppose we'd have to kind of refresh my memory on concept records in general.
The Wall, Operation
The
Mindcrime.
Wall, not Operation Mindcrime. The Wall, probably. I mean, that in terms of like what's good about it, aside from it being good, but like the visual component of then the movie, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you have like a concept record and you're like, oh, I didn't realize it was a concept record because I didn't.
That's true.
I didn't put it together, or I didn't read the interview with the band guys talking about it. So a lot of times you kind of miss that. So The Wall seems like kind of sort of one of the top ones. You know, as I mentioned it, the Songs for the Deaf is a concept record, and I really loved how they did that with the changing the radio stations in
Love
between
that.
or whatever.
Absolutely.
Conceptually, I thought that was really cool.
That had a lot of people on that album too. If you could pull the liners, it's crazy. Like a lot. I think he's got not only Goss on there, but a whole, like, you know, Mark Lanigan, I think, is on there. Dave Catching. I mean, it's Josh. You know, early on, he really loaded on just these really cool musicians that were, you know, pretty big, and you know, Nick Oliveri gets in there later on. I'm not a big fan of the stuff lately and he doesn't really have any marquee other guys' names. It's just Josh. It's like a solo album. So it's interesting to watch, you know, as bands grow and change and all that. But that album you mentioned, that's a good one. For me, it's Operation Mindcrime. It was so cutting edge at the time. There was really nothing kind of like that at that heaviness, and the production level was just, you know, all the talking, Dr. Blair, I mean, just serious sounding. And there was a video they put out with like 5 of the songs linked together, all with the actual story. I never
got it.
Yeah,
Got it.
They really went off the level, off the Richter scale with production on that, because they were following up Rage for Order, I think, or maybe Rage for Order, I think, and that, you know, was just did not do that well. It was a big departure from The Warning, which had a little bit of a concept album feel to it too, and that album was just a myth. So it's interesting. That's a band that a lot of people don't like to talk about, or they think about all the hits that came, but man, Queensryche, it's very dynamic music over those years. Really strong and progressive, you know.
My funny Queensryche story is they were opening for Metallica on the And Justice for All tour, whenever that came through
Right.
town. And I don't know what album Queensryche would have been on, but being major Hesher Metallica fans, we didn't give a shit about Queensryche. and
That's bad.
and even though it was in an arena, me and my friends were still in the club in San Francisco. So like we sat down and turned around and put our backs to Queensryche when they were playing.
What
People
in
were
the
like-
world?
And then people were like, "What's your guys' problem?" And we're like, "It's only about Metallica,
You're
man."
here for Metallica, man.
Yeah.
That's classic. I love
We were just
Metallica.
idiots.
Yeah,
we were just total idiots.
I
You know,
remember those
I
days.
got to see Jeff Tate do Operation Mindcrime at Counts Vamped, and it was done from front to back, and that shit was just like, I finally got to see it. I never saw Queensryche in the early years. I went off
Yeah.
to college and lived at the beach, and there was 0 concerts for like 10 years practically. I had to go like 5 hours to go to a fucking show somewhere. It was insane. And so I missed like Queensryche, but man, hearing that in a real good venue and a small venue at that, and Jeff Tate just fucking nailing it was impressive. He's really tried to do everything he can to repair, you know, some things that are pretty ugly stains in, you know, certain parts of his career. But I tell you, he's got these great musicians with him. Surrounds himself with good, strong, and he delivered it. So it's interesting to watch some bands can really still kick ass, or musicians. Other old ones, they struggle a little bit at times, you know. Maybe we'll get into that a little later. Let's get some music for these guys, Billy.
Yeah. All right. We'll be back with more with Mr. Rob Blasko on the Doomed and Stone Show. Vessel of Light. That was Torture King from Last Ride. Killer song. We also heard from Jakethehawk with Counting from their album Hinterlands. And kicking off the set was Hail the Void from their self-titled album. And we heard Parasite. All right, we are jumping into segment number 4 with Mr. Rob Blasko. And we've got Electric Hydra on the agenda. Talk to us about these guys.
So I only recently discovered these. Like, you know, it's like the end of the year. You've kind of already made up your mind on, you know, what's the top albums, you know, and then you got a band like this that kind of sneaks it in at the last minute, and you're like, oh, bro, like I can't. There's not enough time to digest what you've just given me, right? I can't consider this yet. And which is unfortunate because the album's pretty slamming, and they have a girl that sings on some tracks, and then they have a guy that sings on some tracks, and you know, dynamically it's all very consistent. And this is Iron, I think it's Iron Lung, and it's one of the tracks that the dude sings on, but sort of reminiscent of like Alice in Chains, kind of vibe, but like super big, heavy riffs. And I'm a little unclear where they're from. Maybe Sweden.
Yep.
Yeah,
it is.
Yep. This was a late comer, man, but I dig it.
We were lucky enough to get to debut this album, so I'm familiar with every single song on here. They dropped like 3 music videos for the first 3 singles. I mean, they came out storming. And Iron Lung definitely was my favorite of the track too, because it's the doomiest.
For sure.
Yeah, it's a good one. I dig it. I've not given this album the proper listen. So
I've been looking for an excuse to play them, and it just hadn't seemed to fit in or whatever. And I'm so glad you brought them up, because they are well deserving of more eartime.
And it's one of those albums like on my show, like I only picked 10 songs, and so it was like my top 10, and I felt like it was really tough to narrow it down to 10 albums of the year whenever there was a lot of really great stuff, this album being one of them. So I felt like tonight I gotta kind of give a little love to some, you know, people that didn't make it into my top 10 that would have made it into my top 20, you know?
Perfect.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And then we got hopping up right after that, Spacelord.
Spacelord coming out of Buffalo. You know, they got, I just connected with Mr. Root and band recently, and it sounds like they're in the studio or getting ready to get in the studio. A lot of stuff going on with these guys. People that aren't familiar with Spacelord, they don't sound like what the name is, first off. So they're not a heavy psych band. This is like a straightforward heavy rock band. It appeals a lot to stoner rock fans. Strong riffs, but yeah, I think what does it the most for me is the vocalist has a Paul Rodgers-like ability, and it's just this song is a killer song. I picked Cruiserweight, which they had a video, and this is about a boxer.
Nice. Yeah, it was very cool. You know, one of the interesting things is that, you know, here we are, right, the 3 of us, and that there's so much diversity in what we all picked, and that, like, I never heard of Spacelord before, you know, and so it's like you're educating me and turning me on to cool stuff, which I think is what this is all about. But I think it's the thought process of that, the reality that, man, there is an unbelievable amount of music out there. There's an unbelievable amount of people that want to get in the garage with their bros and crank out fat riffs at full volume. Like, that's so refreshing to know that is a reality.
Yeah. Do you remember back in, I think it was like late spring, Spacelord did a cover of Hunger Strike by Temple of the Dog. And that's when they first came to my attention, because that was being kind of shared around on Twitter.
Just such a good singer. He's able to just easily pull it off. I will praise this singer as one of the better rock and roll, hard rock and roll singers that I hear coming across my ears. I mean, I have zero problem turning on some of their music and just rocking. I mean, there's so many good songs these guys have. again, this isn't stoner. It's not doom. It's not heavy psych. This is just rock. You know, if you like Crow's Conformity and you like Bad Company on steroids, you know, or Sasquatch, this is the kind of band you're gonna be like, oh shit, this is pretty cool. Even Rival Sons, if you like Rival Sons, you'd be like, this is just a heavier band. It's just super cool band. So I hope people give them a little love and check it out. Song Cruiserweight's a killer one. And then Billy, you got a whole mouthful of stuff going on here with your picks. You picked Weird Tales.
Yeah.
So talk to us about Weird Tales.
Going from Buffalo to Warsaw. Polish band I've been following for quite a while. You know, no one really has been picking up on them, I would say, you know, for the last couple EPs and albums, but it just spoke to me. Their early stuff was just really weird, kind of jaded doom. A little more in the Reverend Bizarre kind of, there's this Nordic style of doom that is very heavily influenced by the band Reverend Bizarre, and Weird Tales is in that category. But now they're just flipping the script on us, and they're going full blues doom, and they're doing this by covering blues classics in an upcoming album called, and I quote, "Y'all motherfuckers forgot about good old son of a bitchin' blues."
Amazing.
Make of that what you will, coming from three Polish guys. But we're going to hear the first single, Got the Blues for Murder Only, which was actually a real song by a pioneer jazz guitarist and blues singer named Alonzo Lonnie Johnson, who died in 1970 and obviously made his impact well before that. But the whole album is going to be covers like this, and I would say they have brought out a level of musicianship in doing so that is really cool, and they're doing it in sort of the doom sludge style. So, you know, I think Sabbath proved that blues and doom are just bedfellows, but this really reminds us just how close a kinship they have.
Cool, man. I'm hyped to hear it.
Yeah, this is coming out on Interstellar Smoke Records, January 15th. Doom and Stone will get to premiere the album on the 13th of January, so I'm really excited about that. A lot to look forward to in the new year, so maybe we can talk a little bit more about that next segment. But I'm ready to give this a listen, and we'll be back for our final segment.
Can I ask you a question?
Oh,
Since
yeah,
we
yeah.
have this gentleman with us. So talk to us about Ozzy Osbourne. I mean, why are we not talking about this? This guy plays with Ozzy Osbourne. I'm not shy, if you can tell. Talk to us about the interaction and what's it like to play on it. Just more than just that it's an honor and all that other good stuff. Tell us a little bit about what seems to be a little bit of a interesting situation in a positive, fun way.
I mean, look, it's still unbelievable for me. I mean,
Right.
Like, I mean, it's like, man, like, I remember being like a 13-year-old kid, going to the record store, having my mom buy Speak of the Devil, and and then hanging out with my friends and listening to Blizzard of Oz and Dire of Matt. Like before I even owned an instrument,
Who introduced you to this music? Like, who was it that kind of led the way for you?
Well, so it started off with Kiss, for sure, just because, the height of Kiss was 75 through 77, right? And I was sort of at that age.
At
where
that age
it
of
was,
6
it,
and 7 years old?
Where it just kind of permeated, right? It was that thing that was in your face whenever, like,
Right.
my parents listened to, like, Beatles and Elvis and folk music and stuff.
But who
and
introduced you to Kiss?
It was Kiss did. I don't know how they
Wow.
got into my life other than it popped up on TV.
No
It
older
had to be-
brothers, sisters.
Pop culture.
No, so I had a cousin. So my mom's brother's kid, son was whenever we would go over there, he was like, at that time he was like the Spicoli of the family, you know, and you got to factor in this is like the 70s, so it's like, you know, whatever. But he was just like that guy, you know, that kind of Spicoli type of guy,
Right.
And he was the one that turned me on to then other stuff outside of, you know, beyond Kiss. And so it was like Kiss was the gateway drug into other stuff, but then he was the dealer, right? like my cousin was like the dealer that
Right.
brought in the Sabbaths and AC/DCs and, you know, all of that stuff. So
Always
you know,
interesting to hear.
Ted Nugent, Blue Oyster Cult, all that.
And what a time to be introduced to heavy music too. That's that was a dangerous era in heavy music where you really felt like a palpable sense of, at least your parents did, you know, like something's
really,
different about the music of these kids compared to what we had growing up, or even just a few years before that.
Generation X, particularly us in the 50, they're 50 or more, we're just very blessed to have this 70s music provide us this palette of different kinds of stuff. And when you have Zeppelin making such a massive wave, and then you have Black Sabbath and AC/DC, and then, you know, and even hard rock was good back then. I mean, Foreigner in early Journey, it's just, and then you go and you get, you know, it goes into that 80s, it goes into the 80s stuff, and before it gets to that fucking, you know, hair metal, I mean, it was an amazing time to be just a child and then a teenager, while, you know, heavy metal literally was the king of the mountain. I mean, MTV played it, I mean, was like completely dialed in. And of course, you know, big money got involved, and the next thing you know, everyone's wearing their hair a little higher, and they're all doing love songs. But man, it's just very fascinating to hear each person's road along the way. And so it's for you to have that cousin pusher, and that's so fascinating because that happens with people.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's interesting. So let's give them some music.
Okay. Yep. And I definitely want to pick up on this when we come back, because some interesting observations and questions I have for our guest, Mr. Blasko, on the Doomed and Stone Show. We'll be back in moments with our final segment.
secret hills. They're all searching for an answer. Who rises with this test of wheels? In the boundary and in the darkness. Head low on fire, so leave. Crowds screaming their approval. You're like a hurricane with a touch of sleep. Let's get it all together. We gotta set ourselves free. Up and down this world. But you ain't all the last of me. Let's get it all together. We gotta set ourselves free. Up and down this world. Oh, but you ain't harmless to me. Oh, let's get it all together. We gotta set ourselves free. Up and down since forever. Oh, you ain't heard the last of me. Down in old Mexico, where a child gonna slap your face. Down in old Mexico, child gonna slap your face. They eat rattlesnakes for breakfast, drink their blood for tea. Women down in Mexico, they are bad as bad can be.
How about that? We just heard Got the Blues for Murder Only. What a title. Pretty edgy. That comes from Alonzo Lonnie Johnson, who was a pioneer jazz guitarist and blues singer, covered by Weird Tales out of Warsaw, Poland. And looking forward to the release of their new album in January. Spacelord brought us Cruiserweight, and that's from Indecipher. Electric Hydra, with their self-titled debut, brought us Iron Lung. All right. Well, we got last segment together, and I feel like there's just so much to talk about. You have so much experience with music and with life, and as it turns out, managing bands as well. Maybe give us a synopsis of your management credentials.
Yes, please, a
Yeah.
synopsis.
Yeah, I mean, management was the thing that came about pretty much the day that I joined Ozzy Osbourne's band, because of the fact that I was climbing the ranks of heavy metal hired gun bass player guy, from Prong into Danzig into Rob Zombie into Ozzy Osbourne.
Prong
right?
too.
So-
I love Prong.
Wow.
Yeah. And then so by the time that you start at Prong and get to Ozzy Osbourne, you know, you're like, man, it's lonely up here at the top. Like what am I gonna do next? Like where do you go?
Where do you go from there?
If
Yeah.
that is, if that is your trajectory, where do you go? You go to AC/DC or Metallica, and I don't know, man. Like, do I really think that I'm that lucky? Nope. I feel like I've been lucky enough, you know.
Right.
So I'm like, but I still want to be in music, but I don't necessarily want to be a musician, and I don't want to be a 50-year-old living on someone's couch. You know, so I was like, I got to do something else on the side, so that by the time that Ozzy retires, I've got a plan in place. You know, I don't want to wait for him to retire to try and figure it out.
Right.
Plus, two, you got to figure it's like, well, he balances his solo band and Sabbath, so there's years of time that I won't be gigging, right? So, so I was like, I got to figure something out. So I kind of whittled it down to, well, why don't I manage some bands? Like, I've been around, you know, I've been around long enough. I mean, shit, I got signed at Metal Blade Records in 1986 whenever I was a 16-year-old teenager in Venice High. You know, and so I've been around a while. I know a few things. I've been signed. I put out 3 records before I graduated high school.
Good God.
I know a lot of people. Yeah, I know a lot of people in the business, and so I figured, like, well, I got to roll it. I got somewhere to start, and so I was like, I'm gonna start a management company, and so that's what I did. I've been managing bands for as long as I've been in Ozzy's band, and now at this point, like, so I manage Clutch, I manage High on Fire, and I manage, you know, Zakk Wylde, and so, you know, all of Zakk's things.
Wow.
And stuff. So that's been a fun ride, you know. Like, I feel like I'm a very blessed dude to, as a hired gun, you know, like I've been fortunate that I have only played in bands and played music that I think is cool, because, and no discredit to any of my friends, but, like, you know, like I know guys that are in cool bands now, but that, like, had to play in Vanilla Ice for a paycheck, you know.
Sure.
And, like, I've never had to do that. And then now I can laterally extend that into management and go, man, like, I manage some of the coolest bands ever.
Yeah.
And I don't have to manage an uncool band for a paycheck.
I mean, what a trifecta of bands you got there, all that are just super strong popularity live, super strong live in general. That's got to be really, really cool. And Clutch is just, I mean, what a machine these guys are. I mean, what an amazing story they have become. As they were a DC band, and I grew up in DC area, and I didn't even know who the hell they were. And I didn't find out about them until probably Beavis and Butthead or something. But man, this last 6-7 years, that trajectory's just got bigger and bigger, and where they're playing and what they're doing. I mean,
they played with Mastodon and Graveyard when I saw them once. I mean,
Yeah.
mind is fucking blown when you have 3 bands, and that was as Mastodon was getting bigger themselves. You know, when more and more the drummer was singing, which has this voice that's just like, oh,
Yeah.
It's amazing to see all that. So you're really, really a fascinating story to say the least.
So how does one pitch themselves as a manager to Clutch? Did you approach them? Did they approach you? How do those kind of things happen? So many things in heavy music seem to happen. I don't want to say informally, but just casually. You know, a lot of people aren't used to seeing contracts and sign here because so many things are done over a handshake or a text or things like that.
Yeah, no, it was real organic. I mean, I've known those dudes since their first record. So I was in this band. I was in this band called Drown, and we were a terrible band, but we were a band nonetheless that had a record deal, and it was very short-lived. At least my tenure in the band was short-lived. But I was in the band long enough to be on a tour that was Prong, Clutch, and Drown.
Wow.
And that was whenever Prong was on Snap Your Fingers, Snap Your Neck.
Whoa, yeah.
Yeah.
Which like that was the single at the time.
Yeah,
so they,
absolutely.
And Clutch was on Transnational on their first album.
Mhm.
But they had the self-titled album, they had songs in the can already. So they were playing Space Grass and stuff like on that tour. But I ended up kind of bonding with them and just sort of maintained a friendship over the years. And, to the point to where, fast forward, I don't know, 15 years where they took Zakk Sabbath on our first tour, just because of the relationship and same booking agent and whatnot and stuff. But so then it gets to a point to where then they're looking for a manager, and they call me and they're like, hey, we're starting to think about that, manager thing or whatever. And I was like, well, look no further than myself. And they were like, wow, really? Like, you'd want to, you would have time for us? And I go, yes. You guys are awesome. Like, more than awesome. I'm a huge fan. I would be borderline fanager. It would be bad, but it'll be good too. And and they're like, oh, okay, cool. Well, let us do our thing. And they came back to me and they're like, yeah, you're the guy. I was like,
that's cool.
Let's do this. Let's do some cool stuff. And that's what we've been doing.
It's been
go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say it's been amazing to watch Neil as he's really refined his vocals. Really changed from those early years. And God, there's not too many frontmen that just bring it so hard and so fired up. And you're like, damn, he's like 50-something years old and he's still fucking, veins popping out singing and with this ferocity that is just so impressive to anyone that's paying attention.
Yeah, I mean, the fans, they say he's like a preacher. He's not even like a singer, And then whenever you dig into the band's backstory, from them telling the story and stuff that most people wouldn't even know, is that whenever he was first in the band, he wasn't even the singer. They had a different singer, and he was I think he was the DJ in the band or something, or he played keyboards or something like that. But then the singer guy that they had, he wasn't committed enough to want to even play a show or something.
Right.
So, but they had these shows booked, and then they're like, well, what are we gonna do? And they're like, Neil, you should just sing. And he's like, okay. It's interesting whenever you come across these people that end up being the front man, because naturally they're just gifted at being that guy, and it really has nothing to do about being a rock star or being a singer. It's there's this unexplainable ability that a front man has that you cannot replicate, like Ozzy, right? Ozzy's he's the same kind of guy, where he's this unexplainable front man that has so much charisma about him where it's the whole picture, right? It's not and like anyone that we think is like we always talk about this, is like anyone that we think is like so inspirational, you know, for us as a singer, as a frontman growing up, would never even be like a finalist in American Idol, like, because it's not about the technical ability, it's about the charisma, and that's nothing that you can learn.
Yeah. I'd say, you know, you brought up Ozzy. So is Ozzy, when you interact with him, is he a funny guy?
Hilarious.
And do you understand what he's saying all the time? Or do you have to like...
Not all the time. I mean, you know, a majority of the time.
Right.
But yeah, no, not all the time.
Right, because I watched the show he does with his son and his wife, Sharon, and they have captions. You know, they literally, it's like he's speaking a different language. They literally put the words at the screen. So that's why I just bring that up. It's Ozzy just seems like would be a fascinating guy to be around for sure. And
dude,
he's forgotten more than, you know, some of us have done. I mean,
he's hilarious.
So
he's hilarious, and when you get him into the when you get him into the stories, you know, it's gold, man.
He just
like,
starts
you know,
ripping them off. Oh,
yeah, like, I mean, dude, I'll tell you, like, we were doing, I think it was, I don't know when it was. It's all blurry. But anyway, we were doing an Ozfest, and this has happened more than once, but this was just the first time. And like, I'm in the dressing room, and like, keep in mind, my 16-year-old self is not about to believe the kind of shit that is about to happen. And like, I'm in the dressing room, warming up, whatever. Ozzy pops in. He's like, "Oh, what's going on?" And like, so he pops in, and I'm like, "This is crazy." And then Rob Halford, because Judas Priest is on the bill. Rob Halford walks by, sees Ozzy. "Oh, hey, what's happening?" Like, comes in. And so I'm on the couch, and I'm looking across at Ozzy and Rob Halford having a conversation about quitting smoking. And like, whatever, it doesn't even matter what the conversation is about. Like, but it's the fact that, like, this is unreal right now, that this is happening.
It's so
And
cool.
totally. And but that particular event has happened countless times in my life at this point. And every single time, it's not like I get used to it. It's unbelievable every time.
Yeah. What is involved with management? It sounds pretty damned intimidating, and you work with Hot and Fire as well. Give us kind of a breakdown of what does a manager do?
Very simply, a manager provides opportunities for his clients.
Okay.
So every day I wake up and I go, what am I going to do for these dudes today?
Yeah.
You know, like, what opportunities am I pulling out of the ecosphere to put in front of these dudes to do? And that is really what it is. No more complicated than that.
Yeah, you got to create.
That is.
I love
you got to create, and it's fascinating. Yeah, and very much a dedication to networking, which you've, like you said, you've started at such an early time, and living in the right place too. And so it's impressive because there's many people that had the exact same opportunity as you, but didn't do the things that you're doing with it. And that's a tribute to people. Don't keep people around like you if you're fucking things up all the time. You know what I mean? And so I try to tell people that don't be mad at winners. Don't try to tear them apart and compare yourself. Just shut up and just pay attention to what good people do. And people, I find that egos are a massive issue in this industry. Very much people, you know, backbiting and fucking passive aggressive stuff. And it just, you got to build people around you because it's the greater good you're trying to solve. I mean, you know, you're like, I got to get me some or whatever. But in the end, man, you praise and take care of the people above that work their way up. And, you know, I've heard your name around, dude. And then I looked it up not too long ago. And then I was like, oh, it's that guy. You know, brain starts fucking mapping out things on a wall, like with sticky pads. No, and it's just impressive, this kind of stuff. So I just want to give you just a big thanks for what you're doing in the community. I mean, you literally, I've heard you on Sirius XM, which plays next to nothing when it comes to stoner, doom, and heavy psych.
Yeah,
you've been on there, and you know, God knows they need a lot more of that. You know, but it's just impressive stuff. And let me ask you, so who else have you played with? Give us a little. We know Ozzy and we know Zakk, and Zakk is just amazing showman himself. But who else is mixed in there? You said Prong, and we didn't know that.
Yeah. So my hired gun braggable moments is Prong, Danzig, Rob Zombie, Ozzy Osbourne. Those are my hired gun moments. And then early on, when I was in, you know, like my own band, that was whenever I was signed to Metal Blade in the 80s, and that was my first band called Cryptic Slaughter.
Right.
Wow.
And
you were Zombie? So who was?
Yeah, wasn't it during the Zombie era that you got your nickname Blasko?
Yep.
What's that all about?
That's where that came from. Well, it was like when I joined, you know, Rob's very theatric, everything for all the right reasons, but like, you know, everything's got to be cool. And like, dude, my name's Rob Nicholson. Like, that's not cool. Like, I agree with you that it's not cool. And so he's like, well, let's call you Blasko or whatever. And I was like, cool. I don't even know what that is. And he's like, well, it's Bela Lugosi's real last name.
No
and
kidding.
Go, oh, that's cool. Like, I'm a huge Dracula fan.
Oh yeah.
So
wow.
I'm down with
Nice.
with some distant relation to Bela Lugosi.
That is going on a trivia question one day when we all decide to put together our trivia game.
That's
awesome.
Who was the guitarist when you were with them?
So the band was that. So whenever I joined the band, it was under the premise that it was Rob's solo band, and that it very clear. Like the premise is that this is very clearly not going to last very long because he's going to go back to White Zombie. So don't get comfortable here, kid. And blah 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 blah.
Which he never did.
Yeah, Rob didn't think that, but I'm saying that the team around him very much thought that, like, look, the cash cow is White Zombie. We're patting him on the head to get this done, but then it's gonna be over in like 6 months. So, you know, whatever, have fun. And then that is definitely not what happened. What happened is he broke up White Zombie in the middle of the tour because the song exploded and like it was triple platinum in like 2 weeks, you know. And stuff. So he's been solo ever. So the band was me and Mike Riggs, and me and Mike Riggs were in Prong together, and then the drummer was John Tempesta, who was in White Zombie, and so that was
Tempesta is a great drummer. Jeez,
that was the band for the 2 records that I made.
Which 2 were they?
And so it was the first Hellbilly Deluxe and Sinister Urge, and then we had a hiatus, and then I came back, and then that was when I think that was the John 5 band, and we made Educated Horses.
Wow. Okay.
And that was the
John,
third record.
and John 5 is revered among many a fan. He plays shows at Counts Vamped, and just kills it. I mean, just people love him in this town. He's that's wild shit, man.
Yep.
And the big revelation tonight was that you play with Prong, and I don't know, I just have a big soft spot in my heart for Tommy Victor and that whole crew. Did you also record with them, or was it mainly a performance?
No, I mean, like, I hired gun guy. Like, it was the Rude Awakening album tour cycle, and Paul Raven couldn't tour, and they just called me and they were like, hey, we need someone to fill in. And I was like, yeah, great, well, you know, sure. And then that was kind of what started my whole hired gun career. But yeah, I didn't play on an album of any band until Rob Zombie. I played a little bit on Hellbilly Deluxe, and stuff. And then I played on a couple of Ozzy records, you know, when I got in his band. But for the most part, like I haven't been a very active, you know, record guy.
Yeah.
Studio musician.
Yeah, live guy. I'm like the live guy.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
like the guy like they call for the live stuff.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you get nervous still before performances?
Yes, 100%. Because it's my job, quote unquote, as awesome as it is making sure that dude looks and sounds awesome every night, and that's a pretty big responsibility, you know. And so yeah, I get nervous about that because like I don't want to I don't want to make him look bad. Like, you know, I mean that guy's the reason why we're even all here to even have a conversation.
Right.
And yeah.
How do you keep the nerves from swallowing you? Just kind of taking you under with them.
It's like, see, but the nerve thing is
It's kind of necessary, right?
Until you hit that first note, right? And then
Gotcha.
and then once you hit the first note, then like muscle memory takes over, and
Okay.
like the thing of it is that what people don't understand is playing in front of 30,000 people is super easy. Playing in front of 30 people at Count Vamped is way more gnarly. Like it's like way, because whenever you're playing in 30,000 people, it's like it's so not even real that like
Right.
it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Like it's because it's like you can't make any particular type of contact or connection with anyone because
And you have such a big stage.
So massive.
I mean, such a
Yeah.
massive stage, so you don't even have to see the whites of their eyes sometimes, which, like you said, in the Count
That's
Vamp
exactly
thing,
right.
yeah, you
Right.
really have the engagement, the eye to eye on that makes it really, really fascinating, for sure. I mean, it's just got to be a trip. It's I mean, yeah, Ozzy just has to be. It has to be a trip. I watched the show and it just blows me away. I'm like, he's not well, but he seems to be doing all right. You know, it's just one of
He's
those
doing
things.
great. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
He doesn't
he's a
look
good
well.
guy.
He's just, but man, it's just he's just living it. You know, he's just living, and that's what
Totally.
really matters. And
Yep.
it's fascinating to see what I mean. He bit, you know, the dove's head, and then he bit into a bat, which was alive, and he didn't realize it. I mean, just the crazy ass stories in Alamo.
Yeah.
And
No,
the
I
fairies
know.
wear boots, even the song, you know. And the Wizard, correct me if I'm wrong, the Wizard's about they're a drug dealer, I think. That's
Yeah,
why
I would
spreading
definitely
the
believe
magic.
that.
What's on over?
Yeah.
Spreading the magic. Yeah. So I must have heard that. But speaking of spreading magic, you pop out this song, the band Acid Mammoth, which is one of these name meldings together that can confuse people. First off.
Yep.
And tell us a little bit about your selection here with Acid Mammoth.
So this is, I mean, well, so I have a playlist, and I've been doing a playlist for like 5 years now, and what the playlist is, it's, you know, it's by the year, right? So I put one song from one album from one band on the playlist every year, and this song is number one on 2020's playlist, so it must have come out really early in the year, because it's, you know, it's number one. And I started the playlist under the premise that, I mean, I'm sure you guys experience this too, but like people in a conversation will be like, man, like I just don't hear any good new music anymore.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I guess, but it makes sense though, right? Because it's like most people don't have the opportunity or the time to go deep diving into genres looking for new riffs and stuff. Like they just don't.
Right.
And I was like, well, but you know, but respectfully, I totally disagree, but I understand because you just don't know where to look. So I'm going to make this playlist now. So the next time that conversation happens, I can go, you're wrong, here's why, and I'm going to text you a link, and you're going to open the Spotify playlist and your mind is going to explode, right? And so that was the whole premise of it. So anyway, fast forward 2020, Acid Mammoth, number one on my playlist, and they're Swedish, I believe, and super heavy. I love the vocalist, and I love the riffs. And I'm always a sucker for a good name and a good album cover.
Oh,
and
yeah.
like Acid Mammoth, like says it all. Like it
Definitely.
sounds like Acid Mammoth. Like
And
that's what
the
it
song
sounds
is
like.
Jack the Riffer, which is just
Which is so great.
outstanding name of
Right.
the song.
Because
And-
you go like, how deep are we into this genre, and yet no one has thought of that yet
Yeah.
until 2020. It's pretty remarkable that you go like, man, there is a future in this genre. There is still a future.
You know, that's another heavy psych sounds one.
Yeah.
Certainly this is the kind of band that's right up your alley, isn't it, Billy?
Oh yeah, yeah. And I'm cheating a little bit, but I was just reminded that they are based out of Greece.
Greece, correct.
Yeah,
They're a
and
great band. It's just
They formed in
amazing.
2015. Yeah.
Their scene is just crazy. I just
band-
can't get over Greece.
The bands out of Greece are amazingly good, like kind of like Sweden, right? Like where
Yeah.
you just go like, how can they keep cranking it out? And then you just go like, Greece too, man. Like it's unbelievable.
Like last show that Billy and I did, or no, the one before last, before Doom Charge, I had how many, Billy? Like 5 Greek songs or 4
Yeah.
Greek songs at least.
You're going nuts with it.
Yeah, there's more to pick from it, you know, and just really, really a great collage of different styles. And then you throw this in here, and this is yet another sign that they could be at the upper level of these different styles along the way. I mean,
There's a good documentary. What's it called, John? On the
the Greek
Grecian-
rock revolution.
Yes, Greek Rock Revolution.
Unbelievable. Every band is just incredible.
Yeah, I recommend checking it out.
You ever heard about it, Blasko?
No, but I gotta look it up.
It's got 1,000 mods, Puda
Cool.
Volcano, which is my favorite female vocalist, fucking desert rocking band. Puda Volcano, what a name.
Okay.
Naxatros, or whatever way you want to pronounce it, Naxatros. But they're one of the premier heavy psych bands out there. Planet of Zeus, which
Love
is
them.
one of the stalwarts of the Greek scene, along
Yeah.
with Night Stalker.
Night Stalker, yeah.
Yeah.
Which, you know, has a very interesting, you know, front man, and he's great on the documentary.
Is
And then-
Valley of the Sun? Are they Greek?
no,
No.
Valley Sun's from Cincinnati.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they play Planet Desert Rock, matter of fact. They're on Truck Fighters soundtrack label, and then a band called Tuber is also
Okay.
on this, and they're a Greek instrumental stoner rock, and then finishes it off. The other band is literally my favorite album that's been released in the last 14 months, and that it's a band that just the whole thing speaks just something crazy. It's the Village of Ionia City.
Oh, I'm glad you brought them up.
And holy shit, the album Age of Aquarius is, and I would call that a concept album.
They incorporate like original
Greek
instruments. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And they have these beautiful sounding, and I think even in the video I saw of them, I think the girls are also beautiful visual Greek women, and amazing harmony vocals done by them with this singer that is just out of this world. Really went from one level of what he was doing to this album was in English, but still with this great accent and speaks straight to some weird thing in the soul. I mean, I've never had an album make me feel that way. And I sat there with headphones going, oh my God, what did I just go through?
Well,
And
and in
it
this
was-
documentary, you see like this band bringing, it feels like the country together in a very tumultuous time economically and politically, and it's just like people flock to this concert because it just represents everything that is Greek. In
Yeah,
essence.
it pays tribute to like the old, but bringing the new, but bringing in this messaging that is just so spiritual, if you will. And I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, I like their old stuff better. I'm like, I may never even listen to their old stuff again after hearing this. That's how, I mean, it's just one of those albums I would strongly suggest for anyone out there that likes heavy psych, or if they like even stoner rock, rock and whatever, man, just put it on play, catch a buzz if you want, don't if you don't have to, and pay attention to this album. Like, don't just have it in the background while you're looking at an email. You know, just give it its respect. And
Are you giving away your #1 album of the year right now, John?
that was on last year, so it was my number 2.
Okay.
Yeah, it was last year.
They re-released it this year too.
Yeah, well, guess what? They put that thing out and immediately got jumped on soon after that by was it Napalm or was it the other one with the N?
Nuclear Blast.
Yeah, one of those two, I believe, snagged them as quick as they could. I believe, unless I saw something, my eyesight's not so good anymore, but I think they had 1 million plays on YouTube for their album. I mean, that's insanity. And you'll barely beat people over here that, I mean, they know, quite a few people more know about them now because, I mean, there was a bunch of us, it was like a cult. Yeah, I mean, the first 4 or 5 months, this is just, people just really got emotional and really is saying something very strange but not weird and psychic almost.
Yeah, and that's another one of those bands that we can look back and say 2015, I heard their EP, I was so excited, I shared it on Facebook.
Yeah.
I was a piece of that little chain of bringing it to other people,
Yeah.
And that's what really, I think, lights our fire.
Yep, it's a synergy. I mean, if people don't realize, you know, I'm going to take a little tiny piece out of my heart tonight and tell you, you know, I was helping a band recently that's not in our scene, and I doing a bunch of stuff and really helping build relationships with certain aspects that they needed with radio stations. And if you don't get the love back from the people you're helping, and you see them like keep going up, and you don't give someone a little bit of that love and like, you know, thank you and wow, you know, and you start questioning them, that's a really bad way to do things. You got to be positive with people that are literally out there helping. And I think that
Without a doubt.
I think the rock scene is and needs to continue to evolve on that and not play this thing like, you know, yeah, don't post the show on my page. I mean, me and Billy are both like, you know, you post shit on our page, you know, all the time. But other places, it's just really strange. But when you have this kind of music out there, literally there is a revolution of music, rock and roll. There's literally a whole branding of music that if Sirius ever woke up, there literally you could put it out there and just be another station.
It would be a phenomenon.
Because particularly if they're marketing to the whole world, if they're only marketing to the country, it still would be because you literally had doom, stoner, heavy psych, power metal. I mean, there's literally like 6-7 different genres of music all wrapped up into one that could curate a playlist mixed in with older stuff that ties it all historically together, like Caius or Corrosion Conformity or Moshpit. It's fascinating to think what that can provide when you get people in the right place, and that's it's one of these things that people networking, working together, taking chances. You know, that's why I really liked having Ryan Jones on last week, Billy. I mean, it's inspiring to see what he's doing with a live stream series, a series with 5 separate shows, you know, and then they're going to unleash Brant Bjork and Nick Oliveri's first time live for everyone.
What is that? The Desert Wizard
Association? Desert Wizards Association. Yeah.
Well, Billy memorized it, so he's all happy about it. It was a tough one. I mean, he's Brant Bjork's manager, and he sets up the Stone and Dusted, which I've helped with for the last 2 years in some capacity, and just love just the whole situation with it.
Has anybody heard that band with him and Nick Stoner?
I was real close.
We were very close to being able to play a song on the show.
He officially hasn't mixed or mastered.
Yeah.
That's what the story is. So I'm like, fuck. And so I was like, Ryan, listen, you got to give us the love and give us at least the first or second one, because it probably Caius Radio will probably get it before us. But as long as we're one that's we've been a big fan of what they're doing. And for me, obviously, I've done so much with some of these desert bands, and Brant's a cool cat. We've had him on the show, and I've partied with him, and he's played 2 of my own shows, and just really dig those guys. Their energy. Brant's solo album this year, that's top 5 for me. And that's a completely different thing. I'll tell you my number 1. I don't make any shame of it. My number 1 album this year is Witched Skull.
Yes.
Witched Skull album was bonkers good, dude. And like that was one of the ones that I felt bad leaving off, the top 10. Man, I love those dudes. Like Australian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything they've done is just in this album, just really it's just all fire.
The preciseness, like the things that stand out for me with them is the preciseness of their riffs, but I love the guy's voice. It's so unique. Distinctly unique.
Marcus De Pasquale.
No one else like him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
He was in a band, get this, Blasko, he was in a band called Looking Glass. Check that out.
Okay.
3 or 4 albums, a little more on the psych side of heavy rock. Still him singing guitar. And they have some really cool stuff, but different than Witch Skull is, it's fucking riff heavy, bam, it's driving it. Looking Glass has a little more wandering and stuff going on. And then we just played Billy Hecate.
Yep, Hecate.
Which they put out 2 singles. Marcus is singing that also. Yep. And it's heavy, crunchy stuff. So it's just, that's my number 1. What's your number 1 there, guys? Or you want to keep it secret for a little while?
My number 1 is my number 10 because I couldn't I feel like everything in my top 10 fell under the criteria of the album has to be good from start to finish. The single has to be a fucking banger, and then like everything about the entire presentation has to be good. So it was impossible for me to narrow it down to a number 1. It was hard enough narrowing it down to a top 10.
Right.
But so everything in my top 10 was the number 1.
That's cool.
That's why you've done so well in management.
Yeah. Well, my number 1 is the one that came out straight away in March. And it's endured. It's Dope Lord out of Poland with
so
Sign
good.
of the Devil. There are just some songs and they're just resonating. We're almost just prophetic in their lyrics about what 2020 would become, and it's so personal in many ways too. It's us against the world, and we're flying high above this, and while the world beneath us dies, and it's just. I think it's going to be my number 1. I'm going to give everything. I told them as soon as I told people as soon as my grad school coursework is out this week, I'm going to take 2 weeks. I'm not one of those that has to be the first to put out, the Doomed and Stone top whatever. I can wait till January even. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything that's super excellent, but that one has endured. And that's really what I think you have to go with. This is an album that will endure and stick with you throughout the year.
Yeah,
I agree so much that record is in my top 10.
Cool.
On my show, track number 2 from that record, Hail Satan, is the first song on my show. So so yes, I'm right there with you that record was heavily important.
Nice.
And this is the year I discovered that Giving Him a Chance was because of you, Billy, because you played it on one of our kind of semi-early shows. And yeah, I dig them. They were different than what I thought. That sometimes these names, you get confused with the Lords and the Dopes and the Asses and that.
How about...
I'm 51 years old now, so...
How about this name Troll Teeth? Have you guys heard of that band?
Yep.
Oh, I obviously have, because that's the selection I made here.
Why don't we segue back into that?
Let's do it. Why not? You know what? The name again was like, what the living fuck? I don't know when you hear some slow, sludgy fucking... not my thing as much. But I saw the name, I put in my little, my little chemical mix that I do on listening to music, and holy crap. I mean, right off the bat, the first song, Swords of Progress, Swords of Progress or swords, as they once said, like S words, swords. Sean Connery, and these guys really have a great sound. I mean, great guitar throughout it. They're off of Electric Talon Records. These are some Jersey boys too, man. A little Jersey action going tonight. But the album is called Goes Nowhere, Knows Nothing.
It's their third, right?
I think it's maybe their second full length in an EP.
Okay.
Kind of thing. But could be all three. So I've never heard any of their stuff before, but I gave them 2 times listens this last. I mean, because this wasn't necessarily going to be a song the band I was going to pick. I was having to narrow it down today. Out of like 7 songs, I kind of narrowed it down to, and this one just stood out. And these guys, this is a great album for people to pick up. It's got a spacey feel to it, kind of laid back vocals, but they're strong.
Yeah. And then to complete the last segment here, we're closing out with Korn, which I think this may be the first time that did we play Korn during our 90s show? You remember? I don't remember.
I didn't pick them.
Yeah, I think I might have, or Bucky might have. We did a 90s show earlier, and then we did a 2000s show. We'll probably do a 2010s show here pretty soon. It's just crazy how time is going. But Korn was part of an event a couple of weeks ago called, it was a tribute to Alice in Chains at the Museum of Pop Culture. And this was just a star-studded who's who. Mastodon was there, Billy Corgan was there, Ann Wilson, Duff McKagan, Metallica, of course, has got to be at all these things. Dave Navarro was there, Ann Wilson, I think I just mentioned, Corey Taylor, Kim Thale was there, Chris Cornell's daughter was there, and so Korn took on the song Wood from Dirt. And did a bang-up job. I don't know if you've heard this performance or not, but it's I thought they were going to go crazy with it, and they were very respectful to the original material, but those little accents, those little, Cornish, to coin a phrase, little riffs just made that cover so amazing, and this has been a great year for Alice in Chains covers, let me tell you.
Oh yeah, this song I think holds a special place to a lot of people, mine and Blasko's age. That when singles came out, that was such a killer Seattle rock and roll movie, but it had love stories and
it was a big moment.
Great characters, and that's when that song was unleashed to the world. After they had this exceptional album before that many of us were just like, whoa. And, do I love this version? I think Korn did an all right job, but I just don't think he's capable of doing vocals at even the area where I would need him to do. He just can't pull that off, for me. Now,
I don't think anybody can really match Lane Staley's
believe it or not,
vocals and
the current
intensity
singer
on that.
can. The current singer of Alice in Chains sure the fuck can, man. I've seen him. He's
William.
awesome.
William Duvall.
Really, so I think he spoiled it for me.
Yeah, no, he actually brings his own
great job.
characteristic to it. Yeah, I don't
Not
know.
like Korn, but
I'm a big Korn fan, so from way back. There was this little meme that went around today that showed, heavy music listener at 5 different stages of life, and in that early stage is Korn, and then it gets a little bit more, and then the 4th stage was Electric Wizard and sleep, and the last stage was like listening to Sun O, on a loop for 10 hours or whatever.
And he was like totally frazzled looking.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't make the final stage.
Yeah.
But I had Korn's first album, and I really loved it. So I remember Korn and being a fan of them for years, and I've seen them countless times. When I lived in Orlando, Florida, they played all the time. They played festivals, everything. I've seen these guys a fair amount of times.
Have
I've
you
seen
had
Seven
any?
Dust more, but
Have you had any interaction with these guys, Blasko?
Korn?
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was in Rob Zombie, we did. It was it's probably one of the first most massive tours I ever did in arenas, and it was a Korn Rob Zombie co-headline thing, and it was a massive stage thing because we were both trying to outdo each other every night, and like it was crazy. And Korn was at, I think they were on their 3rd record, so they were peaking, you know, right then, and stuff. But yeah, we toured with them, and that was a huge tour, and that was the first time I met those dudes. But yeah, it was great. That was a fun one.
Was he on
And then
Oxygen back then? Like where he was
Oxygen.
doing the
Yep.
Oxygen Mag thing?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I remember seeing that. I was like, whoa, I've never seen that before.
Huh.
Yep.
Yeah, it was pretty intense, dude. He had this thing where, like that between songs, because I guess he was having some kind of health issue,
Okay.
and he was so intense, but then he was like, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah,
You know,
I must
mean,
have totally missed it because
This was in the probably early 2000s, maybe 99,
Okay.
2000, 2001,
Yeah, yeah.
2003, somewhere in the 2000s, blur,
Okay.
which I've never partied more in my life. And from 99 to 2009 is, it's when, Jesus, the highest amount of partying ever. So every once in a while the brain goes zzz, like that, you know, but I remember the Oxygen going, whoa, I wonder what's in there, man. Yeah.
Well,
But
Mr. Blasko, how do I hate to put the brakes on the show. This is going to be like a super ass long show. We'll either have to divide it into 2 shows, which I don't think we want to do, or we can have Rob on for a second show sometime here in the future and get into some more stories.
Yeah.
What's a way people can connect with your podcast and your other creative work?
Everything is all from my Instagram. So Instagram at Blasko1313. That's the easiest way because everything links out of there.
Perfect.
And so yeah. That's
Yeah,
where you
and
can
I
find
follow
me.
the guy on Twitter, and he's around the socials.
and the name of your show
Yeah.
is?
My podcast and playlist is Volume Forever.
Volume
And
Forever.
Follow him forever.
and but both all exclusively on Spotify. So
Excellent.
I do my podcast is only on Spotify.
Right on.
Ooh,
Very cool. Very cool.
cool.
Well, we're going to be checking that out. We'll link folks in the comments. And man, we can't thank you enough for coming on the show, spending a lot of your time with us, sharing
Thanks for having me.
your secrets, and we hope to talk to you again in the future.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Look forward to hearing it.
Right on. All right, guys. That's it for the Doom and Stone show. Doom on until we meet again.
Does anybody have the time?
5 after 12.
Okay, that's enough for today. On Monday, we'll talk about another pattern that might be of interest to all of you, cannibalism. Have a good weekend.
The preceding was a presentation of Doomed and Stoned.